Hi, my name is Stacy Suh, California Immigrant Policy Center's Bay Area organizer. I'm also part of the Korean American Coalition to End Domestic Abuse, as well as Survived and Punished, a national organizing project to end criminalization of survivors of gender violence. All survivors deserve access to safety, justice, and healing no matter where they were born, especially when we have a president who was elected on a platform of misogyny, racism, xenophobia, and Islamophobia. It's important for anti-violence organizations to support and protect our immigrant and refugee communities. We know that immigrant survivors often have to navigate domestic violence and sexual violence under the threat of deportations. Immigration status is often used against a survivor in an abusive relationship, and this poses barriers in seeking services and support. Additional barriers include language access, fear of having a loved one be deported, lack of culturally competent services, and multiple types of trauma compounding existing barriers. For criminalized survivors, there's a direct connection between abuse and incarceration. As many as 94% of people in some women's prisons have experienced violence prior to their incarceration. And for criminalized survivors who are immigrants, we see how abuse leads to incarceration and then to immigration detention. So Nee Norn is a good example of that. Nee was born in a Thai refugee camp, and she was incarcerated for 16 years for a murder that her abuser committed, essentially being punished for not being able to control her abuser. When she was granted parole recently and released from prison, she was immediately taken into immigration detention in Yuba County. And attacks continue at the federal level. So the executive orders, which were signed earlier this year, further militarize the border and expands who is at risk for deportation. Essentially, anyone who is undocumented could be at risk, even if you have only been charged of a crime and have not been convicted. The new executive order also encourages greater collusion between local law enforcement and ICE. But there is hope at the state level and the local level. Locally, there have been many city ordinances and investments that have been made to protect immigrant communities from deportations. And at the state level, California has made vital investments that increase access to relief from deportations and expand due process for California's immigrants. The budget also prevents local governments from signing contracts with federal authorities for immigration detention facilities or expanding existing contracts. And in the legislature, California Values Act, Senate Bill 54, authored by Senate Pro Tem Kevin De Leon, limits local law enforcement entanglement in deportations and ensures that public schools, healthcare facilities, courthouses, libraries, and shelters are accessible to all Californians regardless of immigration status. So we need your help in continuing to ensure that our immigrant communities are protected and can thrive. And here's how you can help before, during, and after Domestic Violence Awareness Month. You can support the California Values Act now. The bill is moving rather quickly through its second house in the Assembly and making its way to the governor's desk. Please feel free to get in touch with me if you would like to take action. You can also show up for your local decriminalizing sanctuary policies, especially in partnership with survivors who have been detained, imprisoned, and or deported. And you can also assess and take time to determine how your organization can remove barriers in serving immigrant clients. I also encourage folks to partner with California Immigrant Policy Center to advocate for pro-immigrant policies and protections, and work with other organizations that have experience advocating for criminalized survivors, such as Survived and Punished. Lastly, really encourage folks to write and support currently incarcerated survivors like Nee and to others. Nee has been such a powerful advocate for herself, but also other survivors. And she has a court hearing in August. Really encourage folks to learn more about her campaign. And also, Survived and Punished and Partnership are working on a toolkit for DV organizations and how they can support criminalized survivors, including immigrant criminalized survivors. So you can learn how you can support by following up with me. My email is ssuh@caimmigrant.org. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks for watching.